Approximately 1.2 million Americans are married to a foreign born wife. While specifically regular updated percentage of this demographic are limited, census data has indicated that roughly 21% of all U.S. married couple households involve at least one foreign born spouse. Um, Regional trends. Foreign born brides often come from East Asia, Southeast Asian countries such as Philippines, China, Vietnam, and even Europe, Russia, and Ukraine. Um, Contrary to common belief, international marriage involving American men often have a lower divorce rate, approximately 35.8% to 41.3% compared to U.S. average divorce rate, which is 48%. My name is Sanad. My YouTube channel is Bel Air 316. I appreciate you guys watching this video. I'm going to get in this topic if you don't mind liking the video. It'll help a lot. If you could subscribe to the channel, that'll help a lot. Comment what you think. And also turn on your notification bell for more videos as I drop it. A little bit about myself. I have a career. I'm just going to say I work in the hospital. Um, and I had that career for about 2 years. I interact with different socioeconomic classes, different cultures, um, different different everybody. I am single. I have no kids, no children, and I have been on vacation. Um, I've been to different countries such as Thailand, Philippines, Mexico, and I have a unique perspective because I'm also a student. So I see different age ranges, and I communicate and I do YouTube interviews with different cultures, different ages, and one of the biggest topics as an adult is the trend of U.S. men fleeing to different countries to seek marriages. I'm going to explain in this video why that is based on my interviews. I have interviewed many of these individuals from the U.S., whether here in the U.S. or while I was in the Philippines. And I'm going to post the videos and do more when I do travel to these countries again. But this video is to talk about why they do so, why the trend is very common, and why the trend is increasing in numbers. And maybe at the end of this video, if you guys want to watch it in full, I would greatly appreciate it. But maybe in another video, I'll talk about if I think it's a good idea or a bad idea to date foreign women compared to U.S. And I'm going to talk about my experiences doing so. And I'm going to be bluntly honest about it. I take pride and I have a lot of integrity when I talk about these topics. I don't like to lie. I don't like to lie to people. I like to be bluntly honest about it because in return, I want everybody to be honest to me. So I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm just going to give the truth about it. And yeah, with that, so in order to understand why men think the way that they do, you have to dig a little bit into the history of a man, specifically an American man. There used to be this thing called the American Dream. The American Dream was the idea that an American born man was the head of the household, typically like a Christian culture, religion, and this man could maintain a livable wage at something like a factory or like a warehouse or something like a milkman, a mailman, something along those lines, a plumber, and that man in America could maintain a household. He could have a wife, a stay-at-home wife. He could have like two children, a son and a daughter. maybe a dog, maybe a cat, and maybe a third children, maybe a baby, another son, if you will. And with that uh, job that that man has, let's use a milkman as an example. Um, it was very common, and it was very like it was so common that everyone could do it. Like a mailman or a milkman or a factory worker could afford to do that. Homes cost less. It was less population, so less competition in the housing market, and the economy was a little different. So with that man's role, uh, birth, what we look at now as man being the provider, and that's what it stems from. That American dream, especially in America, like that man being the provider, because that's always been what it was about. And it's fair to say that a man's identity is his ability to provide, which is why, a 19-year-old or someone in their 20s may not look at it that way. But typically, when everyone gets in their 30s, um, women respect men a little more based on his providing capabilities, and men respect each other and understand that women are going to kind of like judge them based on their providing capabilities. Now, with the you could call it the traditional role of a man, there was a traditional role of a woman during those time too, because when the man was going out doing, working hard, uh, the woman had a role too, and it wasn't a provider role. The woman's role was to like take care of the kids, the babies, the children, prepare the meals, um, like nourish the family, submit to the husband, and cooperate, while typically the lady didn't work a full-time job. Now you compare that to now, is nearly impossible for one person in the household to just have a job. Typically now, because houses cost so much, um, let me add again, you could even own a house being a milkman. A lot of those individuals are a little older now, but they have owned property. But now, you can't be a mailman, you can't be a milkman, you can't work at a factory and still afford what you could afford back then. Um, Also, too, like the man and the woman, you could say like the wife and the husband both have to work. Um, so there is, already that. Back then, women, didn't really have to work, and women didn't like really have much rights kind of to work. They made a little less than men, and that's, of course, that's not right. But now that rights are a little equal, and women are wanting to work, um, the roles are just a little different. Like the the modern woman isn't in the same environment or society as the traditional woman that we're used to. And I'm not saying that that's a bad or a good thing. That's all like subjective. Um, and things change for the guy. Like the guy has a little more on his shoulder because he can't provide with those same jobs, right? But what men are reporting to me and what men are realizing is that they still have this role that determines their respect and acceptance, and how a potential spouse might treat them or accept them, in which this role is they still have to be that provider, which is why typically you'll see, when women hit that 30, 35, 40 and plus, they want the man to like cover, if not 50%, if not all of the bills. They want the man to cover most of it. I'm not saying all women do, but typically a woman's going to have that requirement. Um, and not just that, he's still going to have that previous image that the American dream man had. But what men are reporting and what men are realizing is that that typical American dream, um, they're comparing the role of the their spouse. So they're looking more at if that's what's comparable now to how the role of a male should be. They're comparing the role of how traditional versus modern woman should be. So a lot of men are reporting that the women now in America are not understanding like a double. They mention it as a double standard. Like if there is going to be two people working, like a lot of them feel like there should be more contribution to the household because um, you know it's taken away like the wives or the spouse's ability to nurture or have kids or provide that for the men. And I'm not saying that that's a wrong or right thing. A lot of men are reporting that because the women do, because these women are allowed to work now and are maintaining these jobs and careers, that they're not displaying the same traits that their grandmothers did in the modern days. And a lot of men are not feeling like respected or understood that things are changing, but the only thing that is not changing is the role of a man, and men are still being identified and respected based on their provider role. So because that is what it is, and America is so expensive, a lot of modern men, men these days are fleeing to different countries because the provider role is much less expensive in different countries. Because in different countries, the woman, a lot of men believe that the woman will respect them like traditionally our great our grandparents did, because in these different like countries you could say that they're like third world countries. So like these women in these different like Southeast Asian countries uh, value men a little more because they look at men as the provide, and they basically, these women in the different like Southeast Asian countries um, value the men a little more as far as their provider role, because it means a little more to them because this man helps them put like food in their mouths, and these villages are starving, and these women could use that more than American women can, because these are third world countries. Um, Again, that's all subjective, whether you think that that's right or wrong. But a lot of men are saying that, because there is the argument that a lot of women would say that um, the men are taking advantage of these third world country women because they're in such like need of financial resources. But um, the male's argument is that typically American women still have the will also have the need and require um, financial assistance, uh, s- stability from a male's role. But the difference is that in America, the cost of living, the cost of anything, food and whatnot, costs a lot more. So they're basically looking at it in their head like the more cost efficient provider role is with the Southeast Asian countries, the Philippines, the Thailands, and that's one reason why you see that trend happening, being American man going to Southeast Asian countries. In addition to that, like I mentioned, because our American women are um, in the work field, it opens up the door for a lot of things, including I don't want to say attitude because attitude sounds like a bad thing, but I'm going to say attitude, but I don't want you guys to look at it as a judgmental attitude. But a lot of men are reporting that the attitude of their American women are changing compared to their, like the traditional woman that we're used to because um, they're more submitted to like their boss or they're not having those traditional wife roles such as like cooking or cleaning, and they're starting to look down on those roles. American women are starting to look down on those roles and starting to call it like a degradement of women when men do require those roles, and a lot of men and women are just having conflict and seeing life so much different in regards to that because you know yeah, like basically a lot of men feel that women are wanting the man to still have traditional roles, but in return, the men feel that they're not getting the traditional roles from the women back, and they just feel like it's a bad exchange. So, the attitude and like these women in the third world country is a little different because they a lot of American men report that these women are still like submissive, um, still embrace the roles such as being like a woman that would cook, would clean the house, would do laundry and things like that, and not having a negative image of it. So yeah, that's another reason why a lot of American men are changing to are fleeing the country to find Southeast Asian or different country women or to date or to marry. I hope all of this is making sense. I hope that I don't want to keep this video long, so I don't want to like expand too much. But I have visited. I just want to remind you again that I did visit Thailand, Philippines, Mexico, and I do have experience, also observation, and also data for my next video that I'm going to talk about, and it's going to be targeted to the men to say if I truly believe that these women in these different countries like the Thailand and the Philippines are traditional, and if it's actually worth it, um, or are you just going to waste your time? But I'm going to save that for another video. And I'm kind of going to end this one here. I will expand more if I miss something or if you agree with me or disagree. Please feel free to comment it in the comment. If you like the video, if you like the topic, please, go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and subscribe to the video. It'll do, it'll support the video. And yeah, turn on your notification bell for future content. Um, yeah, it's a huge trend. So I hope you guys do pay attention to these videos. Do your research. Don't devalue American women. Don't devalue foreign women. Just do your research on your decisions. And yeah, I promise that I'm going to give my honest perception and honest experience and honest data to you guys. And hopefully it can help you on your journey on choosing what works best for you, whether you want to be with an American woman, a foreign woman, or whether you just want to play like the single role and like take your time. Let me add before I end this video the thought of, because this is an important part, and that's the beliefs and the norms from foreign women and American women. And with that said, let me say this: typically, a man doesn't, they say reach his prime, but I don't want to use that word. But a man doesn't reach his valuable time until like mid 30s, like meaning he needs time to go to school, get established in his career, and like have a little saved up before he could have a baby or a kid if he wants that. And typically that takes until that almost takes it when a man is 35 or even older. So you could look at it like a guy doesn't start his life until 35, and that man could have kids until he passes away. In contrast, um, a woman has a biological safe pregnancy range, which is um, 18 to 29 is typically what you hear. And every year, and especially every 5 years after that, it is late pregnancy, which we call like a geriatric pregnancy. And every 5 years after that, every year after that, basically, it increases the risk for birth related complications, which can be very harmful for the mother and or the baby. Not limited to death as far as the severity, but also the child being born with conditions that may require lifelong assistance for that child, and that could put a strain on the relationship. So basically, what I'm trying to get at is there is some benefit in age gaps, like let's say a wife being 22 and the husband or the guy being like 35 or even like older. In America, typically women don't think about that, so they kind of like would degrade a guy for thinking about things like that. But in a lot of these foreign countries, especially like Southeast Asian countries, that's a normal practice because they do think about that and they do take it into consideration when they do date. So that within itself shapes the idea of someone's life, like whether they want to attend school or whether they want to have kids, and they move a little different. So a lot of guys are finding it that they have to argue, that they don't have to argue with, like foreign um, women, but they have to argue with that idea when they communicate with American women. And I'm not saying American women don't have a right to believe what they want to believe, or men don't have a right to believe what they want to believe. But typically, a lot of men find comfort in communicating those uncomfortable conversations, or it doesn't even have to be uncomfortable. It's two legal ages, but a lot of men um, think mutually with foreign women, especially in Southeast Asian countries, in regards to that age gap than American women do. So that's one of the hugest reasons why men flee the country and develop things and different develop relationships, or they're just spouse or marriage in foreign countries compared to U.S. countries. And with that, you have like you have more options for your kid as well. Like that kid is going to have the option to have dual citizenship. He could live in the U.S. and whatever that other country is, that's also a huge benefit because that kid doesn't have to be poisoned with the social norms, like meaning, like the unhealthy food, the processed food in the U.S. They could spend like half time there and half of their life in their native countries. Like let's use Philippines as an example, where you do have trees that have like fresh mango, fresh banana, and it is taught in the school system in the Philippines where they have to plant a tree as a requirement to graduate. Also, there's less social media in province area in like the Philippines. And I say that because a lot of men, especially men that typically get their like life together, they look at social media as kind of like a poison, and it takes away from those like kids playing outside, enjoying life. I've been to the Philippines, and the kids are much happier in the Philippines, even though they're poorer and they don't have the electronics that the kids out here have. But the kids in the Philippines typically had a smile on their face playing with, you know, um, rocks and cars in the street and just playing outside and getting that physical activity. So there is a lot of benefit there, even when you look at like raising, children in like the Philippines. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't pre-write anything for these videos. I like to like speak from the heart. I hope what I'm saying is making sense. Again, if I'm making sense, if I'm make it sense. If you agree with me, comment, like. If I'm not, also comment, say what's not being clear. If I missed on anything, if you guys want to add any ideas or anything, go ahead and let me know. I'm trying to think about if I'm missing anything before I close this video. Uh, yeah, let's just end it there. Again, like, comment, and subscribe if you stood through, you know, this whole video. I do appreciate it. It does help a lot. And again, turn on your notification bell for more videos in the future. You guys be safe. And again, I'm going to do a video on if I believe dating in like these foreign countries is worth it, and I'm going to be very honest about it and respectful about it. But peace and God bless everybody.